Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester, Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 84. And we're recording this. This will be out the last podcast of 2020. And what a year it's been! A weird and wonderful year. Obviously, it depends on your circumstances. I know this year will have been an extremely tough year for a lot of people, and like small businesses, and if your family's been directly affected with COVID. But I guess hopefully we'll have helped a few people through it and given a weekly source of entertainment, bike racing entertainment for a few folks. So
here's a mad thought, right? When did it all kick off? Obviously not date, it was March time
was when it sort of hit the UK big time.
Exactly. And you just think, here we are in December 2020 and we've already accepted the fact that it is going to be an ongoing thing. And now I'm going to speak for myself, not the nation, obviously, but I honestly thought it would be a shorter period of time that this would obviously overtake. Now that's ignorance for you, that's straight away, but it is mad to think we're going well into next year. I
think a lot of people thought when the first lockdown hit, it would be like a couple of weeks or maybe a few months, but like you say, it's been a proper long drawn out thing. And when you think about it, like you think, no, when everyone was off for all that time, and then before you even knew it, it was like people had like 7 weeks off work, and you think, blimey, it's a hell of a lot of time. And going, like, I'm a man of habit. I do the same thing every year. And for Christmas, every single year on either the 23rd or usually the 24th of December, go down to the Metro Centre, park up at the range. I get all my stuff from either the range and all my Christmas shopping from the range and Sports Direct.
Who do you buy for?
Just not many people.
Go on, give me a list.
Just mum, dad, sisters, that sort of thing. Anyway, I get everything and then get myself home. Usually, you can't get parks. The shops are absolutely rammed. It takes you like half an hour to get out of the car park. This year, I went at Christmas Eve and it was like a ghost town. No one was there. And I went to the checkout. I was the only person at the checkout, and it's just surreal. Like it's and then same Christmas Eve's always like a massive night out. See everyone from school. It's like a proper good catch up, and everywhere's buzzing. Just absolutely dead everywhere, and obviously people following the regulations and staying at home and stuff. But it's just such a weird time to be alive. Like,
and it's like today we are recording this one on New Year's Eve, aren't we?
It is.
So, and then the last podcast we released on Christmas. They are, and that was with your big announcement with
Brent.
I'll tell you what. Before we move on with the rest of this show, I've got to get this cheap shot clean in there. Right, there's a cracking little video from GR Motorsport with your announcement with your Superbike team member. I'm trying to think. Teammate, but in a different class. Does that mean? Yeah, you're still part of the same teammate. And he's standing there with a Christmas hat on, and he goes, "Aye, and I'd like to introduce Chrissy Rouse." Now, my God, I think they were that excited to get you on this bike and get this news out there. I think they gave you like an extra large top, man. If the wind picked up, you would have blown across the bloody paddock, man. What's up with that?
I think
I've got to get that cheap shot in. You look ridiculous, son.
Quite a few people commented on the picture and the video, thought I'd put a load of weight on, which I've maybe put a little bit on, but not that much.
Oh, not as much as me. I've got more chins than a Chinese phone book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm telling you.
We'll probably get onto this like in the outro part of the podcast, but I am actually going to I always do a diet in January and lose weight and whatever for the racing, but I'm going to be like really strict for at least the first 10 days. I'm going to be dead strict keto just to see. I usually do a ketogenic based diet, but I'm not that strict. But my next target is I'm going to have at least 10 days really strict, and then seeing how I'm getting on, I'm maybe do the full month.
This time last year we did the weight loss chat. Was that this time last year?
Yeah, January.
Should we do it again? I don't know. let's let this video go.
Yeah, I don't have that much to lose, to be fair. I'm not actually that over. How are you doing weight-wise?
Oh, no, I'll pile it on. I think my spirit animal is a hibernating bear. I think anything I eat, I just turn into fat and turn it into storage. It's a good survival technique, especially with if any apocalypses kick off. I am the man to cuddle up with,
right.
100%.
Well, actually, the interview for this podcast, we recorded a while ago, and we've kind of had it stored for a bit, and perfect sort of time to use it now.
Oh, without a doubt.
I'm kind of casting my mind back a good few weeks, but I remember finishing the interview and being like refreshed with how positive it was.
Could not agree more. And I think it's funny how you're mentioning the diet side of things, because this man's very much into his fitness. He's really into his cycling side of things, and a lot of the team riders, a lot of the teams that have enter these events, this particular event, should I say, are into their cycling as well. But like you say, the interview seemed to happen such a long time ago, and I think trying to get this man at this point around Christmas and New Year would have been nigh on impossible with his own family to run and everything like that. But no, it's...
And also with it being... online as well. It's the first online interview we've done in ages, isn't it?
To be honest, it was quite, for me, it was just totally different. Normally we've got this, it's so hard, isn't it? Because when you sit down with someone, you get constant communication, constant interaction, and you can almost, I can't, but you can read facial cues and go, oh, interrupt there, interrupt then. But no, it was different. It was a bit of a culture shock for us, but it was great to have this man on the show. And like you said, I couldn't agree more with what you just said, how refreshing it was to listen to these answers. Mm-hmm. But I think, further ado, I think you should announce it, we'll play it, and just see what you lot think.
Yeah, so you describe him as like the top guy at the TT, really, in terms of organising it.
Oh, without a doubt, a bit more like the chairman of the board. Him and his team, alongside with the government, they put on the Isle of Man TT, and they do a fantastic job of it, really do.
So welcome to the pod. Well, I'm saying welcome.
It was weeks ago. It was absolutely weeks ago.
Here comes the interview with Paul Phillips.
Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester, Kawasaki, proud sponsors of Chersin the Racing.
So we're delighted to be joined by Paul Phillips, Mr. TT man himself, live from the Isle of Man. How are we doing, Paul?
I'm good, thank you. How are you boys?
Yeah, not too bad. We're just saying it's a long time since we've done anything over Skype, so we've been progressively upgrading the studio and our equipment and stuff, but it's all around doing in-person interviews, so it almost feels a bit odd doing it back on Skype. But obviously with the coronavirus situation and the travel commitments, it wasn't possible to do it in person. But it's brilliant to have you on the show, and obviously at a very apt time for the TT. But we'll get to, obviously, there'll be people listening who will be very familiar with road racing and know all about you. Some of our listeners will maybe have heard your name, but aren't really sure exactly what your role is. So do you want to just give us a quick rundown of what you do in terms of your job, and we'll go from there?
Yeah. Okay. So my job title sounds pretty professional, TT Business Development Manager. And I've been working on the TT for 15 years almost. And I'm involved in a bit of everything on it, really. All the kind of commercial stuff, the marketing, the promotion, dealing with all of the kind of sporting side. And at the minute, working on a kind of long-term strategy for its future. So getting involved in, or I have been involved in almost every part of it in some shape or form. In more recent years, it's been more around the sort of the role of the promoter, really.
Mm-hmm. I'm aware of, obviously I'm only 25 myself, but I am aware that around sort of 15 years ago, when you first took over as your role, the TT itself was going through a really difficult time in terms of the image of the TT, and it was kind of a bit of a rough patch. Were you already working within the Isle of Man TT at the time, or when you got your role, or were you how did you end up getting that position?
I was working in a bank at the time.
All right.
Yeah. In IT, believe it or not. So I grew up on Sulby Strait. My mum and dad owned the house right on Sulby Strait. My bedroom as a kid overlooked the circuit. And as a kid growing up, the TT was everything to me. I was completely immersed in it. My dad is mad on motorcycles today. He'll watch anything, anything I was going around, he'll watch it. He loves himself. Has always been involved in spannering for people and that kind of stuff. And my only holidays as a kid growing up was to go to motorcycle races. So I kind of grew up in this world, and most of the people I knew were into motorcycle racing, and developed kind of an interest in other parts of it. And I started doing almost for fun, really, sort of doing a bit of writing for magazines and writing online, and also doing some stuff with riders and teams and helping them get sponsors and bits and bobs like that. And I just knew so many people from growing up with it and whatnot. And anyway, yeah, it was Ian Locker, actually, who'd become quite a good friend of mine over the years, had made a suggestion to the government department that was in charge of the TT at the time that maybe myself and Milky, who had just stopped racing, could maybe do a little bit of work on TT, which we did do in 2005. And anyway, I eventually ended up going to work on it full time in May of the following year.
So you mentioned about your role in sort of the media and stuff. Did you set up realroadracing.com?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Probably like in the it seems mad now.
Before Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. But probably in the 90s, or no, couldn't have been the 90s. Either way, my memory's terrible. But certainly, sort of probably around that kind of whole 2000 Foot and Mouth year, all those kinds of periods. And yeah, like I said, did some writing for mags, Irish mags, Motorcycle News, Bike Sport News, all that kind of stuff. But it was all just for fun, really. It was just, I was interested in that kind of stuff.
But who were your heroes growing up then? So, like, you looking out your bedroom window at Sulby Straight, who were your heroes?
Joey Dunlop, obviously, is kind of an easy one. But when I was a young kid, Joey was guarding the whole Rothmans Honda period and all that. And I because we went to loads of bike racing, I always thought, does Joey Dunlop know who I am? Because I must have stood by him so many hours just watching him work on his bikes, in paddocks as a kid, like a real weird sort of stalker. So yeah, no, he was a huge hero of mine. But kind of like I was always a big fan of a lot of the Irish guys, James Courtney and Dennis McCulloch and Gary Dines and all those guys when I was growing up. But and weirdly, as times wore on, I've had to work with some of these people that I used to watch and thought were my heroes, and had to go to war with them sometimes and butt heads with them over stuff, and it changes things a lot.
Mm-hmm. When you first took over of your role, obviously the image has changed a lot of the TT and various parts, such as the morning practice. Was that around sort of 2003-ish when the last morning practice? What were the sort of main things that when you first took over as your job? What were the sort of main changes that you made initially?
When I went to work on the TT, it had come to a crossroads, like you alluded to earlier. And what people probably don't understand is just how big a crossroads it had got to. So the Motorcycle Industry Association, who represent the motorcycle industry in the UK at Whitehall, and they had come to the Isle of Man government and said, look, TT is bad for motorcycling. You have got to shape up or move on. This is just before I started working on it. So the whole I guess the TT was being ran like an event from the 60s and 70s in the noughties, and it just it simply couldn't continue like that. And when I started working on it, I was 28. And I was pretty naive at 28, really, in terms of the environment I was going into. Working in a government environment, public service, I was very naive to that, and also to the kind of network that existed around the TT and everything and all that. But it served me well in some respects, because I had loads of energy. It's before I had kids, before I was married. And I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was a bit like a bull in the china shop to begin with. And there was loads of low-hanging fruit. There's loads of obvious things that just needed to be put at least somewhere close to right and modern. I kind of probably broke a few eggs making omelets back then, but it was an easy muscle. And I guess without that energy and being at that age at that time and stuff, we wouldn't have got. You'd just give up. You'd just go, bollocks. I haven't got the energy to stick with this. But a lot of people say, oh, you did a great job with this and that and the other. But it was really straightforward to begin with, because there were some things that were just so wrong. There was only one way of doing them. That was the opposite way, which was right. And there was lots and lots and lots of simple things. But quite quickly, the TT started to get more, the kind of the view changed. It was seen as this kind of prehistoric thing in a little island in the Irish Sea that used to be famous and important and no longer was. And bit by bit, it became important again. It became important as a media product. We started getting better television, much more coverage, became relevant in the industry press, but also outside of the industry press. Teams started coming back. So all of the sort of manufacturer teams and the bigger teams had pulled away from TT when I started. Bit by bit, they started coming back. And the quality of the riders, we worked hard to begin with to improve the quality of the entry. The entry of the TT at the time was poor. No two ways about it. There was a handful of fast guys, and it ended a cliff really in terms of where it ended up at the back of the field. There were people racing in the TT that shouldn't have been racing in the TT at all, and the speed differential was too much. And all of a sudden, it became kind of a cool thing for young talented guys to come and do and make a career of all of a sudden. And there were people that we brought in early doors who've really become ambassadors for what we did, really, who became, in like the British Championship paddock, people like James Hillier and Connor Cummins and Gary Johnson and people like that who were racing there at the time. They became advocates for the TT and brought the next wave of them all in. And it just became like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We were able to, then bring on better brands in terms of better sponsorship and bring in more investment into the thing and sell more tickets around it and put the commerciality around the TT on a more modern plane, bring that money in to make it sustainable, but to invest in in things around the risk management and safety and all that kind of stuff. So a whole load of things, all of which were still miles away from getting really right, but at the time it was easy-ish to make big steps forward. That makes sense.
One thing that's been very clear, obviously, with doing this podcast, we speak to loads of people and go through the careers, and a lot of the road racing lads that we've had on. It's really interesting to see like how they learned the course and like the first years and stuff. And it's very clear to see the people that have more recently become newcomers there's like a much better support structure in terms of going over early and in terms of making the first year as safe as possible. So that and just from doing our interviews, it's very sort of obvious to see that.
Yeah, I got a load of views around that. So I always felt that one of the biggest risks at TT, and I was being told this by riders, was speed differential, the difference between the slowest guy and the fast guy. And when I first started working on the TT, that could be like 35 miles an hour a lap difference between the slowest guy and the first guy, or certainly 30 miles an hour. So we're talking like an astronomical gap.
At the TT, that kind of speed difference at the TT, that's
winning race at 120 mile an hour and people lapping at 90 mile an hour at the back. So we were able to lop, a load off that, and by bringing in more talented riders that were displacing some of the other people who were there, and being much more stricter around all that. But also, working with professionals, treating professionals like professionals. There were good riders who had looked at doing the TT over the years, who were professional full-time riders and were living from that sport, but they weren't ever treated that way to come to the TT. They weren't treated as you'd expect to be a professional, to be paid and all those sorts of things. But also, I can remember, I don't know what year it was. It was around 2003 or something. There was a French guy that came through the TT, a guy called Serge Lemoyle. That sticks in my mind. It was before my time. And he's on a 125. He'd never been to the Ironman before, and he'd arrived for practice. And he took off the start line. And I think it was maybe a morning practice session. He's got lost at Quarterbridge, but he's got through Quarterbridge. He's got to Braddon Bridge, and he's just gone straight on. He didn't know that it was a left turn, and he died. He got killed. And this was just ridiculous. How could that happen. So our approach has always been the opposite end of that. Nobody's going to come to the TT unless we are absolutely convinced they are super duper prepared. Things can still go wrong. It's motorbikes, they've got two wheels, they can fall over. You can't control all these things. But our approach is to kind of, with that new rider thing, is to make sure they're really good at riding the motorbike before we even have the conversation. That's the first thing. If you're good at riding the motorbike, you've got half the battle won, haven't you? And then we're going to make sure that you can prepare properly. And that means coming to the island and spending time with people that know what they're talking about, trying to make sure they're on a good bike and they've got enough money to do it properly, and all those little things. And they're comfortable in terms of what happens when, and all the nuances of the TT, and where you go to get your the laundrette and a coffee and all of the little things that make life a little bit more less stressful when you come. And that has really worked, and it's self-evident in terms of the performance of people when they've come and they've done well, and they've done well quickly. And it's really important. It's hard to bring a new guy to the TT now more than ever. You've got to go really pretty quickly to just survive in qualifying. You can't. I think I was having this conversation the other day. At the last TT, I'm sure on the first night the superbikes were out, they did 130 miles an hour. I'm sure Hickman and Harrison did 130 miles on the first night practice. If they didn't, they were nearly there. So you can't ride around at 90 miles an hour now in qualifying. It's just, it's not safe. So you've got to be a good rider, and we're going to give you a lot of attention and help and coaching, and also make a decision sometimes that maybe even after all that, it still might not be for you, and maybe it was not for you this year. But, sadly, like I said, you can't control everything, and we just control all of the risks to a sort of practical level that we can.
Here's a quick question for you. Have you actually had anyone go home? I have never met a rider yet who's gone and done their first lap, packed up and went, it's not for me, and gone home. Have you had that in your experiences?
Yeah, I've had all. I've had them all. We had people who have come who I was certain were going to be brilliant and weren't, and really struggled with it. We had people who, like the one that always sticks in my mind, who I thought this is going to be a disaster, was David Johnson, because he didn't work hard enough beforehand. And you guys know Dave, he's a laid back dude. And I just thought, this is going to be a disaster. He's not going to get on with it. He's going to get lost. I just wasn't happy that he put enough in. And I always remember he's riding a standard Honda 5, the old one, the one before. So it's a good few years ago as well. And he did 110 on his first proper lap. And I remember, there's nothing. I always remember thinking, shows what I know. There's nothing to worry about there. But the one guy that didn't stick at, who actually went home, was a guy called Guilherme Dietrich, who was a world endurance champion, French guy, proper rider, a proper motorbike rider. And I thought, this guy's came over, did loads of homework and stuff. I thought he's gonna blitz this. A French guy, this is gonna be fantastic. A non-English, and a guy whose English isn't his first language, up at the front in a couple of years. And it just didn't work out for him. He had a little tip off at Sulby Bridge, which was just one of those things. And then he had a massive moment somewhere, I'm not sure where, I can't remember now, and it just freaked him out. And I can remember seeing the fear in the guy's eyes, and it was the right thing to do, was to say, "Look, this isn't the end of the world, it's only a motorbike race." And he went home. But who knows? And there have been other people who, you think, who have really surprised us, who didn't think maybe they came with enough talent to really, really shine, but they've just really, took to it straight away. So. Like I say, there's only so much you can control in those situations. Ultimately, the guy puts his helmet on and twists the throttle, and the rest of it's up to him.
Do you know things like Living on the Edge and the film
Close to the Edge?
Close to the Edge. Sorry,
Get the film right, man. For God's sake.
Close to the Edge. And do you know the Religion and Sport thing that Dom did with James Hillier? Have you seen a big increase in sort of widening the audience globally from things like that? Yeah,
what's one of the things I think we have done pretty well with the TT is that we haven't had massive amounts of money to spend on marketing right through the period I've worked on it. But what we knew is we had a really spectacular product. If we take anybody to, top of Bray Hill, first time, and the first bike comes, they will be impressed, guaranteed. So our content is spectacular. So we've always used that really as the way to market our event. And generally, people, whether it's broadcasters or magazines or websites or whatever, there's always a lot of interest in TT for that reason. And the film in 2010, it sped up the process for sure. So it really spiked interest in outside of motorcycle racing in the States and whatnot. The TT was on an upward trajectory by then, but that just added a bit of sort of, turbocharged it a bit. And then, the thing that Dom did, but also there's been a number of them. There's been Al Jazeera and documentaries made for all sorts of different broadcasters around the world, and something I think we'll be able to see lots more of. But yeah, I think the TT, more so than almost any other motorcycle event, probably lends itself to those human interest documentaries.
In terms of for the future, I know there's been talk of live coverage of the TT, which is obviously difficult in terms of if things go wrong and how to it just throws up some issues. Is that a possibility for live coverage, or maybe more camera angles in different? For example, if you're watching, I know it's so massive, the track that
it's a 37-mile long lap.
It's so difficult to cover all angles. But is there any sort of plans to improve the spectacle in terms of watching it on TV?
Yeah, so we've been doing all sorts of work in the past however many months since the last TT got cancelled March time, and broadcast is a big part of that, and broadcast is changing quicker than any of us can keep up with, really. I mean, my kids, as an example, have never watched linear television. They've never watched appointment viewing. They don't know, something's on at 7:00. That's not in their world. So the world's changing really quickly, and as is sport, and we're really keen to be at the cutting edge of this in terms of our broadcast product. And when I keep referring to it as the word broadcast rather than TV, because TV's that box in the corner of your living room, but we don't all watch our content on that box in the living room anymore.
It's all on your phones.
So there's a lot going on in terms of the idea of live. Again, people get very hung up about the TTs. How could you do it live? It might get delayed and whatnot. Well, a lot of sport now is delivered OTT over the top. So maybe have your own channel. MotoGP is a good example of that. They own their own channel, and they have 100. They have 1 million subscribers. Just on that own channel. Never mind all of the broadcasters that they then sell the rights to around the world. So there's loads of options. Can the TT be done live? Yes, of course it can. Can the risks be managed? Of course it can. The editing, time delay, and all that kind of stuff. Would it improve the experience? Absolutely. Find me a sports product that hasn't improved from live broadcast. So it is there as something that's important to us. Technologically, it's doable. We've tested it. So not last year, the year before, we tested it. I mean, it was rough and ready test compared to how it would be delivered to the customer. But somebody that's grown up with the TT and then worked on it for over a decade and whatnot, I just found myself mesmerised. It was a 600 race that Michael Dunlop won, and I watched him catch Dean Harrison, who was second on the road, and for the first time in real time, on the other side of the island. I know it sounds weird, but it was absolutely compelling. Can we deliver it by 22 when we come back? I absolutely hope so, along with a load of other things, but time will tell. There's definitely a lot of sort of momentum where I work, above me for us to deliver that. And it's just got to make sense commercially to do. But yeah, absolutely. And it would be cool, I mean, with both whether you're at the event live or whether you're watching it anywhere around the world. I've always had this image of, the kind of Henman Hill thing, the Henman Hill atmosphere. We were going to deliver a fan park at TT this year, and obviously we'll do that at the next TT. And kind of there with your beer, trackside, watching it all around, up to the hedge to watch them whiz past, back to watch it all around. What a great kind of atmosphere. And I think the TT would lend itself to that almost better than any other part of motorsport.
Definitely.
100% agree. Me personally, I think it would, that live experience, yes, it's great and you've got to go with progression, but you have to, like you just said there, you have to be there to experience it. And watching it on your phone does not give you that one bit. You know, it's almost like a simulation.
People often say, if you put sport on live, then people won't go to the event. If you put sport on live and you do a rubbish job of it, they won't go to your event. But if you do a good job, they will definitely, all of the biggest sports in the world are broadcast live. Find me any of the major sports in the world that aren't broadcast live. And of course there isn't one. And if that production is really high end and they capture the atmosphere, of course you want to go, this is really cool on TV, but the next best is being there, isn't it? So
it's taking the next step.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not sure if you're aware, but for MotoGP, if you watch through BT Sport, you can go on the app and you can watch on board a chosen rider. So imagine kind of in that situation you were talking about, imagine sort of looking at the times and seeing someone chasing someone on the mountain and then going on board with them. And it would be unbelievable. Maybe something for the future.
Live on board is the big technological challenge because whilst I'm confident we'll be able to live in the not too distant future, live on board might take a little bit longer. So it's all possible as MotoGP shows, but the TT, when we've got a mountain in the middle, we're going through trees, it's 200 mile an hour a lot of the time, very bumpy. That will be major technological advance to do that. There has been some testing around live on board, but you can't underestimate just how technically challenging that is for the TT.
Yeah, I bet. And obviously we've kind of touched on it, the elephant in the room, the fact that TT's been cancelled for next year. And is this been kind of going on for the last few months? I presume there'll be lots of sort of, COVID meetings and stuff. Do you want to just like sort of give a summary of how things are from your point of view?
Yeah. So both cancellations of the TT, both the 21 and the 21 one, aren't decisions that me and my colleagues have made. We're not there going, we think we should do this, or making the decision. It's not our decision to make. There'd be national decisions for the Isle of Man sort of central government to make because they have huge implications in so many ways. The TT, touches the island in such a massive way that ultimately the buck stops there. So when the TT was cancelled in March, we were told at 12 o'clock on the day it was cancelled. Now, on the sort of towards the end of the week previously, we were really, as a team, we were like, we really think this should get cancelled now. The world was spiraling at that point. And, we're already into quite big commitment around cost by that stage and wanting to give people, proper notice. And we were getting concerned that we were going to drag on. And then everybody with ourselves, but all the teams and the riders and the fans, everybody would be more committed and then have to unravel it all. So anyway, the world went even more crackers that weekend, and by Monday TT was cancelled. A couple of days later the Isle of Man was in lockdown, borders were shut, and there we go. Obviously there was we all wanted to see it come back in 21, but you guys know what the world's like better than I do at the minute. We're in a little bit of a bubble over here, but the science has always dictated that this was a long haul list, and I think being able to run TT in 21 was always going to be optimistic, but of course we were optimistic. So our role from our team, myself and my colleagues, is to obviously advise, provide information around what the ramifications are of this scenario, that scenario, the other. Spent a lot of time looking at the options of maybe delaying the TT and moving it to the end of the summer. But in theory, that, as a layman, that seems like, why don't we do that? That'd be all right. But it quite quickly became apparent that was going to be impossible. And that was mostly to do with the island's infrastructure, particularly around travel and accommodation and whatnot, and its ability to scale up for that. The TT has organically developed into what it is now, and it works because all these component parts all come together at the time that have evolved over 100 and odd years. So that became impossible, and you were left with a few options, really. You had the kind of, hope for the best option, which would be irresponsible, and I think we can all quite clearly see now that a June TT would have been no chance, or take the responsible decision, which our government ultimately did, which was to cancel it, which obviously is a huge shame. But this I've said this a lot recently because I've done a few interviews like this, and whilst we've cancelled the TT for the second time in a row in this November of this year, I'm actually more optimistic about the future of the TT than I've ever been. And there's good reason for that, which we may get onto at some stage. But I'm not kind of, I know a few people think, well, they've not done it for 2 years. That's it. They won't bother with it back and whatnot. But quite the opposite. My message is that the best years are to come, or ahead of it, not behind it.
And that's great to hear, because all our listeners will be asking the same. Like, I know, I was like, thank God for that myself. It's for every bike fan out there, that is terrific news. But when we're talking about the cancellation of the TT, there's a lot of rumours flying around the place with their hope of the Manx Grand Prix and the Classic TT. Though, is that looking promising, or is it a case of just seeing how time develops?
I think government have quite rightly committed to a decision on that in March. Again, that will, I think, there needs to be, this isn't just like something, these events we can't just turn on and off.
Yes.
Overall, and to try and protect expenditure, but also, reputationally, we need to give good notice about what we are or aren't going to do. But I don't know if you know, but the Isle of Man, the borders have effectively been closed since COVID struck. What that means is we, as residents, we can go off and come back. We've got to go through some process. I don't know, because I've not been off. And you obviously got to quarantine for 2 weeks when you come back and all that kind of stuff. But non-residents aren't allowed to come over unless they're coming like a key worker to work at the hospital or something. And there's 4 levels of the border policy. So we're at level 4, which is the tightest restriction. And in order for one of those events to take place, it needs to get, I think, to level 1. So there's quite a big step to get there. So I know as much as you do, to be honest. I don't have any inside knowledge on whether that will happen or not. Any view I would give would be a personal view based on a gut instinct rather than any real science.
Yes.
Lots of optimism, isn't there, at the minute around vaccines and all the rest of it? But I think people are underestimating just how big a challenge that is to, so I don't know. I'd like to. I think Classic TT would be interesting if it was to run this year, because I think a lot of TT rider, I think every TT rider would look to do it because they'd want the track time ahead of the next TT, and we'd be ready to put it on for sure. But we'll have to wait and see. It's the Isle of Man has been a brilliant place to be this year. It really has. I watch the news every morning, and it's depressing, and and the Isle of Man's been on fire this year. We opened we came out of lockdown in June around I think the week after what would have been TT. No social distancing, no masks, everywhere open, and it's just
no need to rub in.
Like, everywhere's open. There's been loads of stuff going on, more stuff than ever going on. Loads of events and loads of sport events, and it's been cool, but it's not sustainable. We're living in a make believe situation really, because we can't live like this with closed borders forever, for a number of obvious reasons. Not least one of them being economically, so we'll see. Like I say, I've been very happy in the Isle of Man this year, but also getting itchy feet, as I'm sure a lot of us are now. Normally I'd be thinking about maybe a ski holiday or something coming up now and all the rest of it, and obviously that just seems a million miles away at the moment.
Do you know, when it comes to attracting sort of new talent to the TT, is it a case from your point of view, do you sort of sit back and do you sort of let riders come to you with the initial sort of interest in going TT racing and then pursue it? Or is it a case of, do you ever sort of see somebody in, say, World Superbikes or in, European endurance or something and think, oh, they would be a great catch, we'll approach them? How does that work?
So to begin with, it was proactive. So we needed quite a lot of new talent on an ongoing basis, and we would reach out to people who had some inkling, whether they'd done some road racing elsewhere. People maybe had ridden Macau, or they'd done the Northwest 200, or they'd racing in Europe, or they'd said in an interview they were keen to do it, or whatever. So we were quite proactive to begin with. Used to go to quite a lot of BSB, just sort of tread the balls, not like door knocking, but just being around and bumping into people and say, I want to do it, and basically making sure that door was open. And then as times wore on and the entries become stronger and whatnot, that's completely changed. And we probably haven't been proactive in that front for quite some time. So anybody who races in the TT now will be people who come to us that say they want to do it. And then obviously we assess whether that's possible. But really over the last few years, I think maybe we've only had maybe 3 newcomers at a time for the last good few years starting, because like I said earlier, it's really difficult to come and do a TT as a you've got to be good bike rider to come and do it,
Have you missed any opportunities? Is there like a particular rider in the past that you thought, I really wanted that man to go around the TT course?
Yeah, 100%. Stuart Easton.
Right.
So Stuart was a great road racer. Anyway, he'd obviously done well at the Northwest 200, done well at Macau. Brilliant motorbike rider, full stop. Really, really talented guy. I always felt he had a temperament for the TT also, and the riding style for the TT. And he hummed and hawed about it for years, even before I was working on it. And in 2007, right at the last minute, in like May, he decided he wanted to do it, but he wasn't prepared. And I said I just felt it was a bad idea. Whether I was right or wrong, I just felt it was a bad idea to come unprepared with like a month's notice. Was just a bad idea. I don't know where the idea had come from. And I said, no, we're not going to make that happen. Whether we could have made it happen or not, I don't know. But and then so it kind of went away in his career, whatever it did, the ups and downs of his career. And then there was another time where we'd gone down the road where we'd actually started coming quite a lot and doing a bit of track learning. I can't remember what year that was. And then again, I think maybe something changed in British Championship or whatever, and he was blocked from doing it. And then he had the big crash at the Northwest 200, and that was the end of it. But I felt that he would have been a really easy TT rider that would have just come at it and done a good job almost straight away. I'm sure he would have, and he's a lovely lad as well. He's a cool lad. So I regret that didn't quite work out. But not many others. There's nobody that we're not going to beg someone to come race in TT. You do have to want to do it. You have to want to do it. It's not easy. It's very risky. It's a long time. It requires massive commitment. That's the biggest problem. If you want to come and do it, you've got to sacrifice months of your life before you've even got there. You've really got to commit hard, and that's not everybody's got that time or ability to commit that. So we're not going to beg someone to come for sure, or dangle a carrot at them or anything like that. You've got to want to do it.
I bet there's sometimes, like, say, in the middle of race day when if for your job you'll be like super stressed and like loads to do, and I bet there's some days that you just fancy packing a packed lunch away and going finding a hedge somewhere. If you could, in that situation, if you could just choose anywhere on the lap just to find yourself a little hole in the hedge, where would you love to go and watch?
Yeah, I would. That's the thing. Actually, I haven't seen the TT for years. I haven't seen it. But yeah, I don't know. There's maybe I have 2 answers for that. So when I was a kid growing up in Sulby, I loved just going off and just getting in a hole in the hedge anywhere around that kind of area. I love that. That was kind of, I really did love it. But then I always think now there's loads of places that I've never been to watch at the TT that would be kind of cool to go and watch. I don't know. One of the places I watch, which is possibly the most spectacular place I've ever watched, but it's always super busy. I always like to go in places on my own or with a couple of people, like kind of up out of the way. But it's Hilbury. That's like a proper crazy place to watch. That is like heart in your mouth every single bike through there, because it doesn't it's that late apex and they end up right out by that grass bank on the way out, and you never think anyone's going to make it. So that's scary. But yeah, things like I always used to like going up to Tower Bends, up through the little paths up the back, and properly, like you say, finding a hole in the hedge and just being there, and the countryside in the middle of nowhere. I liked all that sort of stuff. So I do miss that a lot, to be honest.
Have you ever been taken for like a quick pillion lap, or like what's the fastest lap you've, even in a car or anything? What's the fastest you've been?
No. It's I've never been on the circuit when the roads have been closed. So
really,
yeah. So,
have you never had that draw to do it yourself?
No. So when I was a kid, I grew up racing motocross, and my dad always drilled into me that you like this because you both race motorbikes, is that road racing is for mugs. He always used to drill that into me. because you get hurt, it costs you loads of money and stuff. And but I think he just didn't want, that was a protective thing. He didn't want me, as somebody who was really into it, he didn't want me to do it. And he was like, motocross, you can fall off, it doesn't hurt. It does hurt sometimes, but it doesn't hurt, it's safer and all the rest of it. And I grew up with that thing of, whilst I loved the TT when I was growing up, I never felt that I wanted to do it. And I always think back, that's because he subliminally put it into me that it's for mugs. It always sticks with me, road racing's for mugs. They've never got any money, all that sort of stuff,
No wonder you're good at your job. You must just stand there in front of all these mugs and go, "You're all idiots. This is really easy."
The thing is, I'm a big. I love the TT, and I've grown up with it, and I love it for all that sort of reason and stuff. But I'm not a huge motorcyclist or motorcycle fan. I can kind of, like when I go to the motorcycle show, for instance, people go, "Oh, but that's good fun and stuff." I'm like, no, I'm not interested in motorbikes. It's boring. It's like it's not. So I enjoy the sport around TT and that kind of thing, but I wouldn't be super excited about motorbikes full stop, or I don't watch a whole load of bike racing on the TV these days, really. I watch a bit if it's on, but I'm not my interest in it is just probably from emotional stuff and growing up with it and stuff. Yeah.
So what's been your biggest? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to actually form the question in my mind. I'm thinking over for the short time I've been doing the TT, I think what you and your team have put together as far as track safety, along with Gary Thompson, the whole team in general, has been absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I just think, what else would you like to achieve on safety side of it? What else have we got in store for us when we arrive at 2022? Is it going to be this part change? Is that going to be a little bit different?
I think so. What we've been doing all year is writing a strategy for the future of the TT. It's finished, and it's hopefully going to get passed through our department around the turn of the year. And it means that we'll go into the new year and the next 10 years with a really clear plan. A clear plan, I should say, that we've not had in the past. So it feels like for the last however long we've just been flat out, fixing things but not really thinking about, was anything we're doing right? Are we going in the right? Generally, I think things were right, but what could be done better? And we've done quite this period in time. When I said earlier on about, I think this. Cancelling the TT this year, but being so optimistic about the future, is because I know what we can achieve in the future, having spent all year doing all this work. And this year has been a real gift, because when you're in the normal cycle of putting events on, there isn't much time. I know you think, well, you put an event on a year, you've got the rest of the year. So it doesn't work like that. You're on a conveyor belt, and you need a good amount of time away, as I've learned this year, a good amount of time away to fully understand things. And we've done a lot of market research that we've never had the opportunity to do before. And that this strategy, I believe, will really kick the TT on to the next level. There's one thing at the TT that's world class, and that's the spectacle. And like I said earlier, you come to the side of the track, the bikes come past, it's a world class spectacle. But there's not much else of the TT that I would say is world class, and that's the opportunity for us, is to try and bring every other part of TT up to that level. And there's just a huge amount of work going on where I think we can do a better job for everybody. We can do a better job for our customers and our fans and people who come to the event, better job for people who access it at home from online or on TV. We can do a better job for the riders and the teams, and we can make it more sustainable. But, there are, like you were saying there, Dom, so it's about perceptions, isn't it? There are a lot of people with a perception, they think the TT is amazing. Well, I think for me, it's something that works. I'm always pretty unsatisfied by it. I think could and should be much, much better. And I'm not just saying that because we're doing something wrong or anything like that. But the TT does have something special that other events don't have. So it has a really unique history which you can't buy, and therefore it has a very powerful brand that's been built on that history. And it has a lot of unique things. There's the scale of the circuit and the beautiful little quirky little island that it takes place on and whatnot. And it's really well known. It has a lot of awareness, unlike unlike lots of other motorsport, quite frankly. And if you win a TT, people revere someone who wins a TT. And there's a lot of the sort of just the icons and the course names and the famous names that have come before. And I just think it's a sleeping giant. I always have felt it's a sleeping giant. So maybe we spent the last 15 years calming the giant down and stopping it from passing out, and now it's time to really lift it up, I hope. And in all manner of ways, the thing about you saying there about safety and risk management and whatnot, obviously lots and lots and lots and lots of things have been done, but we are scratching the surface really. And I think we've got to spend more time thinking about, one of the things we're doing through the strategy will be delivering a safety management system which will really elevate risk management and safety performance in our thinking. And there's so much we can do. And just as one example, we spend a lot of time reacting to incidents and thinking about the areas on the circuit and what can be done there. But 99% of crashes are caused by a rider making a mistake. And we really need to put more time and effort and attention into that. How do we stop those guys making a mistake? When they do make a mistake, what do we do for them that makes them survive that mistake better? And all that kind of thing, whether that's around medical codes, equipment, your kit, helmets, gloves, boots, leathers, all that sort of stuff, sports science, all those kinds of things, which, to be honest, at the TT, we're behind the curve on. So there's some easy wins there and some exciting stuff, I think, to come, because the risk is inbuilt in the TT, but that doesn't mean we should accept it, and we shouldn't strive to manage it out as much as possible.
Well, sorry, I'm just sitting here smiling like a Cheshire cat, because it's just like over the news that we've had for the last couple of months, cancellations. It's a very positive outlook for the future of the whole event, not just for 2022. So I'm sitting here revved up, to be fair. So I'm going to keep hammering this message, because we need optimism, because it is going to be disappointing to go through a whole other year with no TT. I mean, it was bizarre, really, for me, growing up with it all those years and it not happening and whatnot. And it'll be, even harder next year, quite frankly. But we need to just come back swinging with the next one. We really need to come back swinging. And I just think it can be. I think maybe in 10 years' time, we might be able to look back and think, you know what, those 2 years off were the best thing that ever happened. Yes, well, like you said, for the development of the future of it. So
we're just talking. We did a podcast yesterday with Danny Webb, and we were just talking. Oh, yeah. And Danny actually only got into racing on tarmac because of foot and mouth. Yeah. He was a motocross rider before that, and it was just the motocross tracks were closed, and he ended up. So it's hopefully a similar sort of thing will happen with the TT, where, like you say, we can look back and it'll be actually like a real positive step.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. That's hopefully we'll be able to in the new year start sharing with people some of what we've been working on. And I'm optimistic that people will get excited about it. We just got to generate. The hard thing is going to be, generating excitement over a whole another 18 months.
We'll keep banging the drum on the podcast here.
It's coming. Don't worry.
We'll keep everyone G'd up. So, but yeah, I think that about wraps things up.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate your time. And I'm feeling much more optimistic.
I know I am actually. Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, brilliant.
I think you're a frustrated TT rider, Chrissy. To be honest.
What's that? Sorry.
You always look like a frustrated TT rider to me.
Jealous of Dom, eh?
Well, there you are. Just have a phone call after. There you are. Just don't tell his mother. Yeah. But no, honestly, Paul, thank you so much for being on. That was brilliant. I think on every listener, every race fan will be over the moon to hear this message from you. And I thank you very much for your time for being on.
No problem. Cheers, guys. Have a good Christmas.
Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester, Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.
How was that long ago? I can't really remember how that interview finished, but like I said,
ever the professional on this show, aren't we, Chrissy? All the time.
I remember doing the interview and kind of, this time with missing the TT last year and then announcing that it's going to be off again in 2021.
I know.
I think everyone's sort of worried about the future of the TT and whatever. So to have to hear it from the horse's mouth and with such positivity, it's sort of hopefully it'll be a good lift for the road racing fans.
And since the cancel, obviously the last time I got cancelled on this scale was foot and mouth.
Was that how many years was it off?
Oh yeah, You've probably already listened to the answer in the interview. I think
I
we
thought
did.
it was only off 1 year. Was
Well, foot and mouth, it got cancelled. But you see, a lot of the riders actually went from... They couldn't go to the Isle of Man because of foot and mouth. So all the Manx Grand Prix lads, I remember, because my dad was competing there, and that's the only time I can remember them letting classic bikes around the Dundrod circuit at the Ulster Grand Prix. So they cancelled that, and all the riders just went to Dundrod, and that's the only time my dad's actually raced that track. But anyway, like you say, with the TT like being cancelled and having that reflection on it is brilliant. And you think, at first you think, well, what the hell are these lads going to do? What's going to happen? Everything like that. And the fact that the scoreboard got ripped down, you're thinking that's the end of it. And that was one of those, I always like to think of the worst thing, and then any good news is a benefit after that. And I think the way Paul was presenting that was like the fact that him and his team can sit down and actually think how the years gone by of like being like constructive or destructive, in the fact of like changes that they've made. Instead of focusing on year by year, we've got to put another event on, we've got another event on. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to seeing what happens. Really is.
It sounds like there's some exciting things in the pipeline anyway.
I tell you what though, I'm nervous, mind. I watched an onboard the other night, and I went down the quarter bridge and turned left, never mind bloody right. It's going to be, I tell you what, that is going to be an interesting concept. I think the first couple of nights are going to be naughty, like really are. I think like newcomers, it does not give them an initial advantage, but like it's calming down the thing, isn't it? It's like, when I'm just trying to think like Glenn Irwin's going to do fantastic. He's in a no pressure situation, but imagine doing your first few nights with everyone remember where it's going. It's like the advantage of me doing the TT as well as the classic TT. I get 2 goes at it a year, like the track, the mountain course in itself. And by the time it comes around to me again, your first night is a bit like, whoa, this is a bit. You're trying to remind yourself and get used to the speed, but it comes a lot quicker. But having a 2-year gap from it, it's like.
I can't speak from personal experience because I obviously haven't. I've never been around the circuit on a bike, but after a year of not being there, I know you do the classic TT as well, but you've obviously done it before where you've had a year off, and whether it's a year or 2 years or 3 years, I think once you've got your first lap and you get back up to speed, hopefully you'll get back in the swing of things. And plus it was getting to the point as well where, especially with Dean and Hickman, where on the first night of practice, when the weather's good, they were straight to like 130.
It's mental, that, isn't it?
So even, if it takes a few nights to get up to speed, and I'm sure.
No, totally. And I think with like, for the ever improvements that they're doing to the track, making it safer, opening up eye line and everything, I think it's going to be. I'm looking forward to getting back to the Isle of Man and seeing what has changed and how much it's going to progress. I even just sitting here, I've got a smile on my face thinking about it, but it feels like such a long way away, mate. Now, at the moment, they haven't cancelled the classic TT or the Manx or anything like that, but no one's holding their breath about that. And because of the infrastructure and blah, 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 and it'll be great to see it back on. It'll be absolutely great to see it back on, but at the moment we've got to focus on home turf, and this vaccine at the moment hasn't really... it's getting dished out, isn't it? It is getting dished out. People have got it.
Yeah. Well, I think we're the first people in Europe to, like, as a country, to start issuing it, because the first person was an old lady. I can't remember. Is it Margaret or something? And then the second person was called William Shakespeare. That was a good quiz question. The second person that got issued the vaccine.
You're having me on here.
No, he's an old guy from I think it was Coventry University or whatever. But yeah,
they got the 2 most English names going. We need a Margaret. We need a Mary or Margaret, or what's the most English name we've got here? William Shakespeare. Find me a William Shakespeare right now. Inject him. Give him a big prick and just see what happens.
I put a thing on my Instagram a while ago. Actually, it's something that I was just interested to see people's opinions. And you see on the news like that. I think I'd seen something on the news that said something like 10% of people in the country weren't keen on getting the vaccine. So obviously it's a very like sort of small trial in terms of like maybe 1,000 or 2,000 responses. But I just put a thing on Instagram. You can do like a poll, and I basically said, if you got issued the vaccine, if you got a chance to have the vaccine tomorrow, would you take it? And it was more or less 50-50. I think it was 42% to 52% to 48%. So I think it'll be interesting. But obviously for the older people who at the moment can't see their families, and the basic, like my great grandma's been like pretty much locked away in a care home for like the last 10 months or something without we can't even go to the window to see her. For people like that, the vaccine surely can't come quick enough, because they've sort of not got anything to lose anyway.
Is this your grandma that got diagnosed with it, had coronavirus, she
that's it, she'll
90-year-old and ploughed through it?
That's
same grandma.
It's mad really, because she has actually already had it, so it's the same as sort of getting the vaccine and getting that immunity.
Never mess with a girl from Burnetfield. There's a life lesson right there. Tough as the coffin nail itself. But I tell you what, like, before we move on from the TT subject, I think we should mention some fantastic news, because we were going to actually do this recording last night, but we were busy racing, but that's later on in the subject. But today we woke up to the news that a certain TT legend, John McGuinness, has been awarded an MBE.
I'm minting it.
That is hellish.
I think Maria Costello's got an MBE, hasn't she? Maria Costello MBE.
Oh, she does.
She has. So, it'll be massive honour for John, and after such a long, illustrious career and everything he's achieved, I'm sure it'll be like the icing on the cake, and it is like an unbelievable honour in it.
Is it for the what MBE for? Something to do with motorcycles, isn't it? Something to do with the sport. No, I'm trying to remember what it. We should really check my phone. We are terrible journalists, Chrissy. You know what I mean? We've got one job, and it's to talk about motorbikes. I'm going to have to find this.
It's not going to be for his input into scientific research, is it?
The Nobel Peace Prize. There we go. So, service to motorcycle sport or something like that. So, well, if Queen Elizabeth is listening to our podcast, we would like a couple of MBEs. That would be fantastic. Would you want one?
Well, if I did something to get an MBE, I think it's a hell of a like a life ambition, really, isn't it?
Well, I think for putting up with me, I think you deserve one anyway, which is fair enough. There we go.
Right, well, and it would be great to get. Obviously, we had John on a while ago. I think he's been doing something recently in his garage with. It's kind of like a podcast, but I think it was like a sort of. Do you know how him and Whitman all them do them live shows, which they usually do in like town halls and things.
Aye.
Obviously, that's been knocked on the head this year. So they did one in McGuinness's garage, I think. But I was busy that night, so I didn't get a chance to watch it. But it was like I think it was a $5, and it was basically like a live chat. And I'm not really, like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Is it them two in a jacuzzi of £20 notes, just throwing them about?
Yeah. But. It would be nice to catch up with John. Obviously, he's had a good. He's been back racing this year, and on the Ducati. He didn't get a chance to ride the Kawasaki, which he was supposed to at the TT and whatever. But
the only time he got on it was Oliver's Mount, like for a parade lap, wasn't it?
Didn't look like he wanted to pull in either, did he?
I don't blame him. It's the only time he actually got out on that bike. But it's so that's John McGuinness out the job again. You know, when you think of these professional riders that just rely on the TT in a roundabout way, I know John did BSB and stuff like that, but you think...
Dean Harrison's another one that's...
Dean Harrison?
Main thing's the road racing, isn't it?
It is,
Michael Dunlop.
Well, Davey Todd was on...
Connor Cummins, there's loads of them really, isn't there?
Actually, when you think about it, that's mad, that all these jobs to a job to TT rider, donate £5 a month for.
Obviously, for people like Hickman that do both, it's sort of half of his. If you think of it as like a sort of pie, it's like half of his pie. But he's still doing the BSB. He's still busy doing loads of other things. Where for a lot of the lads, like I said, like sort of Dean Harrison and stuff. Obviously, he's got other work commitments in terms of engineering and stuff. But in terms of the bike racing, he's had a very quiet year.
Michael Dunlop, he's another clever man with his money. He's invested his money, but it's hold on, he went into not the tourism. He owns a few pubs, doesn't he?
Oh, does he?
He owns a few pubs. I think right off the north Port Rush area as well, straight off the north coast.
I think has he not got a little side business building bikes? Because he's always putting advertising bikes like prepared by MD Racing.
Yeah. So he set that business up as well, and he's now. He is one for the rumour mill, but I also heard that he's got shares in veterinaries.
All right.
Which will be which is just cool, isn't it? What a great idea. And like, he's a very clever, switched on lad, is Michael Dunlop. Very switched on. But there's another rider that's out the job for another year. My God, it's all ticking by.
One thing that I must mention on this podcast, and it obviously depends when you're listening to it, to how long's left, if any time. But we've obviously been doing Macmillan auctions on eBay. So we've auctioned off a lot. Obviously, the helmet was the main thing. And then we've had other things such as team clothing, and we had the signed fairing and whatever. Colchester Kawasaki have just donated a signed Rossi hat, which is currently on. I've just sort of advertised it. My phone's been pinging away like, what's that? Oh, it doesn't matter.
I had something funny to say, but it's totally gone. You know what I mean? So it's a good thing you're in charge of editing, Chrissy, because you can just blend this in lovely. He's just going to blur it out right about in 10 minutes going, here. That was me funny little quick, and then he's going to have a photo edit of a photo of me going, that's funny.
But we've just put that Rossi hat on eBay. So all money going to Macmillan Cancer. And
what's it up to? It's only been like 20 minutes.
I don't know. I've seen a 200 quid bid come in before, so I don't know what it's up to, but a few hundred quid anyway. So
by the time you've watched this all at home on YouTube and listened on the podcast, we're hopefully going to be up to the £3,000 mark. Which do you reckon they'll get up to that?
Overall, we'll just keep doing things until we can raise enough money. We'll aim for a round. We haven't really talked about it off air, but we'll get a sort of round figure that we aim for, and then we'll just keep doing stuff until we'll get to
definitely. It's always good to do help others, isn't it? Simple as that. But
another thing, obviously, you've been in a right chirpy mood today because yesterday we're down at Teesside Autodrome.
Say the words, Dom. Go on.
John was faster than me. Yes! So we're down at Teesside Autodrome for the Moped Mayhem. It was the biggest year that they've been running for about 10 years. Usually they started off with about 20 entries. This year, 75 entries. We had to run on the full international track. It was really good crack. It was supposed to be a 4-hour race. They ended up dropping it to 3.5 right at the end of the race because it started getting icy again. But it was very delayed when we got there because the whole track was just sheet ice.
I tell you what, I've got to give a shout out to Teesside Autodrome and all the staff, Paul Franklin, everyone. You did a fantastic job considering the climate we're in and social distancing and everything. The whole paddock was so well controlled. I think
when we got there, it was -2 degrees, I think.
-2.
And like I said, all the water on the track was just total ice. And I did a track walk in the morning, and I thought there's no chance we're going to be racing on this today. And after a few hours, it got up to about 1 or 2 degrees. Managed to thaw out. Tropical eye, and it turned out to be a right good crack, really good race. Were you third overall?
I was third overall. Where were you, Chrissy?
I think we finished 5th out of 75, which I was happy. But I've got to say as well.
What bike
I was
were you
just
on?
about to say as well. Yeah, fair enough. Dom was faster than us and on a worse bike as well. He was on a pit bike class. Now I was on the full the CRF 150. So
super motorbike.
One of my sponsors, Curtis, brought a CRF 150 down, and we had a cracking race and really enjoyed it. But
if anyone's watching YouTube, he hasn't looked me in the eye once while saying all these facts, because he just needs to take another glance at me and go, Dominic, it'll never happen again. He's fast in a go-kart. You are better looking, and it pains me to say that. You've got it all, son. But yesterday, you were, well, let's say, there's a word bouncing around in my mind. You were my bitch. You were 100% on it. I'll tell you what, there's a good point. One of our friends, he's actually a tree cutter as well, a lad called Simon Thompson. Something happened to him, and I don't know. He had a fit, a seizure, or some sort, and yeah, he hit the ground.
Seeing that you were faster than me,
that could have been it. I honestly believe that's what it could have been it. And he hit the floor, bless him. And then the paramedic teams at the circuit attended to him, but it's good. He's back up and chatting, which is the main thing. I don't know what's wrong with the poor lad, but if he does listen to this, get well soon, and hopefully everything's all right, mate. Jesus, it was a bit scary.
Another shout out for that I seen, and I did mention this months ago after doing an endurance race at Snetterden, but one of the teams was Corey Tinker and his dad Graham, and Graham's got one arm. And my goodness, I mean, riding in those conditions when it's icy and, you're getting your knee down in the sort of damp conditions when it's icy, the bike's moving around and it's like twitchy. And there was, like I said, Graham out there flying around on a CRF 150 with one arm, and you think the skill required to do all that with only like with half your arms is amazing. Like, so massive shout out to I don't know where they finished, but they were very competitive.
Doesn't matter, because I remember watching him, like where the pit wall was, where we could watch from. You could just see this left-hand turn. Now, bear in mind, the poor lad's lost his left arm, so you can imagine, cycle. For me, I haven't obviously lost an arm, but you'd look at a corner and go, I've got nothing to physically stop me if I go down. And the commitment this man had into this left turn was bloody mind-blowing. There was other lads rolling it with their feet down, paddling, and he was just coming in, lining up, and he was just, the connection to the throttle with the right hand was just bam, and you're thinking, 30 brake horse, I know 30 brake horsepower is not, doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking a little bike, little chassis, little wheels on an ice rink, that lad was flying. Honestly, I'm so glad you mentioned him there, Chrissy, because that lad just he deserves an MBE. He really does, just for his accreditation to motorsport. He's mint, absolutely. A bit insensitive, but do you know how he lost his arm?
No idea.
No. Obviously, there's so many different. Anything could have happened, but if it was due to motorbike sport, my giddy aunt, that fear has not not sunk in with him. That man was absolutely fearless, and can't credit him
enough. Kind of epitomises everything that I think life's about. Like, sort of just doing getting the absolute best with whatever situation you've got, getting the absolute best out of it, the most out of it, and something that especially this year I've been thinking about a lot, because really, if you sort of sat away in your house for this entire year doing nothing, and you can't, that's, life's not about surviving, is it? And anyone I would hate.
What a very deep podcast.
I would hate to get to like my grandparents' age and be sat up in a chair and think to myself, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd done that. And like, I would hate to get there like a full. What's the word? Like, everything working properly, and like no scars, no bruises, and think, I've made it. I've got to my old age like unscathed. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to be I want to be pretty much bionic by the time I get that age, and like properly like live my life.
You're in the perfect sport for that, if you want to go to that. You know what I mean? Motorcycle racing is definitely the way to do it.
And you've just got. I mean, I know it's difficult at the moment with the restrictions and stuff, but. For me, you've got to really get the most out of your life. And we did a podcast ages ago with Teapot One. He's got a big thing, live your life, as a sort of slogan, and that's been resonating with me loads recently. People have been ringing us up and saying, "Oh, do you fancy doing this?" And it's just sort of playing in the back of my mind. I think about it all the time, and I just think it's so true. You've just got sitting around on the sofa isn't for me. Like, so
no, I couldn't agree more. I tell you what, one of the best things that someone said to me is, it's a bit morbid, not morbid, but it's a bit depressing, really. It's the realization that. It's a civilization now, we live backwards. And what I mean by that is, you spend the best years of your life trying to make money and sacrificing so much to make a sustainable life for your future. And when you get to an old age where you can't do all the things that you wanted to do when you were young, but you have the financial pot, that would be almost upsetting, really. It's a shame we couldn't reverse that and go, right, there's what you're going to earn straight up the bat. So for me, it'll be a tenner for you, around about 2 million. You know what I mean? 10 million quid. Imagine that at 18, right? There you go. Live back. If you want to do everything, there's your money now. But by the time you get over there, you've got sweet FA.
It's a balance in it. You've got.
That's a theory thing. Obviously, that's never going to be realistic, but it would be. It's an interesting concept, without a doubt.
And speaking of that, I've actually had a few good days out recently on the bikes. I borrowed.
You are factory like, aren't you? You know what I mean? New team, new bike, new friends, new
friends. I don't have many friends. I borrowed.
I don't have any friends, Dominic. Wait.
I borrowed our mates, Dean.
Yes, Dean from DC Racing there.
DC Racing very kindly lent us his trials bike, and I've never done trialsing before.
What do you make of it?
It was actually months ago. I think it was at Scarborough. Dean mentioned the fact he'd got a trials bike sat there, and he said, "Oh, if you ever fancy a go, just give us a ring." So somebody asked us to go trials the other day, and I thought, who do I know that's got a trials bike? So
do you feel ever uncomfortable? Me personally, when someone goes, yeah, take the bike. Now, if I say that to someone, I genuinely mean it. But when we haven't known Dean very long at all. Essentially a stranger at that point goes, just ring me up and take the bike. How did that conversation go? Met you at Oliver's Mount once. Can I have your bike?
Well, I think
I felt
knows
awkward doing that.
I know what you're saying, but I think he knows I would look after it, and if I damaged it, I'll fix it, type of thing. But
has he not seen your earlier career on a motorcycle? This year, I'm not being funny. Like, this year, flawless, mate. Beautiful, fantastic. But my God, you have broken some eggs to make that omelette. I'm telling you, there's a fantastic photo of you flipping up. Anyway, I hope Brett's not listening to this from GR Motorsport, but there's a fantastic photo when you've hit the... Was it Oliver? Not Oliver's Mount. Alton Park. Was it on there?
I've had a few, mate.
I've had a few.
Anyway, but so I borrowed
over
this
the fence
bike.
anyway.
He very, very kindly lent us it. It was a real eye opener. I absolutely loved it. We went over.
Really?
What's that? The trials. Loved it, mate.
Really?
Absolutely loved it.
I had a go at it once, and I'm not known for my patience. It was far too skilled, technical, but loads of riders do it.
Yeah,
Can you see a benefit in it?
Maybe not. It was fun, but I'm not sure. Maybe throttle. I don't know. Throttle control, moving your body around to get more grip. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
No, because like I know obviously they do it for the fun aspect of it, but seriously, can you see a benefit from it? Core muscles, all that rubbish? Like,
I honestly don't know. I don't know. It's one of them where
you can't just say no.
Yeah, I just don't know. That's the answer. I really don't know. I can't see an obvious benefit to making you faster on a road racing bike, but like I said, it was really fun, and just interesting things. Like there was this really steep bank which didn't have much grip, and you could we spent maybe 20 minutes just playing around with like body position, and if you had your body in certain positions and getting the weight on the rear wheel, you got up, but if you leant forward, the rear wheel just span, and it kind of give you a chance to like play around about getting grip and using your body to, I don't know, you're building skills, but if they're transferable over the tarmac, I really don't know. But mega day. We did a bit of everything, and just it's something I'll definitely be getting into though, and doing much more of, because
it looks like a piece of piss, doesn't it? Remember when we had Billy Bolt on? Now I remember him saying he was at like top level at trials, but if he didn't move out to Spain, but what that man can do on a motorcycle is absolutely phenomenal, and the respect of what these lads can do
when you see them just hopping about, and
they're jumping buildings, really, aren't they?
It looks like a sort of BMX just flying around, but they're light compared to a proper like a road racing bike, but they're still heavy, and when you see them just hopping on the back wheel and then jumping up boulders and all that type of stuff, it's very impressive. But I think it's a lot more accessible than say what we do, because if we want to get out on our bikes, we have to like book a track day, travel hundreds of miles. It's like a proper organised day.
Yeah.
Where with this, you can, if you know land, you can use, or you like we went to a place, you pay the farmer like a tenner, and you know what I mean. It's cheap and it's quite accessible. So I'm thinking, if you say finished work and there's a woodlands or something nearby, you can just sort of go and practice little skills.
Because you went with Kev, was it your spotter Kev? Yeah, Kev. So, and he lives out in the Lake District, didn't he? So that would have been very picturesque.
I don't know what I can do with the whole tier restrictions. I don't want to.
We're tier 4 now. We can't do anything.
I don't want to incriminate myself by saying exactly.
Yeah, sorry.
Location
he was in his back garden. He was in his back garden, 100%. But I tell you what, like, I'm really happy that we got yesterday out the way before this huge things have changed rapidly, but it's nice to have
saying that though about you. I know you travel restrictions and stuff, but going somewhere, getting a bike out the van and being by yourself all day in some mountains, it's not, you're hardly spreading the deadly virus on
a trials bike as well. It's not like you're hopping on a super bike and just going up the back lane.
Exactly.
So, but no, that was cracking, man. Mind you, I actually wrote a list.
By the way, do you think you've had coronavirus at any point? Just on that.
What on earth was that?
It's my old phone bigging away. Do you think you've possibly
bids up to $3,000? So pick it up.
Possibly had COVID yet, or
mate, I have no idea.
Have you got any symptoms or anything?
Nah,
had any symptoms?
To be honest, it's I'm a woodcutter by trade. There's no room for being a soft shite. So if I've had any, you just get up and go to work. Yes, you feel crappy some days. Some do. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying the symptoms of it, and people have generally been very, very ill. And people have actually passed away from it, and I'm not downplaying it. So I don't think I've had it, but I'm not showing any symptoms. But I'll let you know. I'll let you know if I've had it.
I would definitely.
I know
like
people
to,
who've had it.
I know loads of my family and stuff have had it. I would love to have I would love to get an antibody test. I think I'll probably get one.
I thought you were about to say we'll have a guest. We'll sit there with the masks on. How do you feel?
Because you've bound to have had it at some point, and I've got no. But for like months, and I mean months, I've not had any smell whatsoever. I've never sometimes when you smell like a real bad fart or something, I've never smelled anything, and even things I know stink. Like someone had gin the other day, and I put my nose right on it and sniffed as hard as I could, and I cannot smell anything. But I've had that for months.
Hold it. You can start drinking now. You're totally teetotal. You should come along and drink now. The taste won't put you up. Alcohol's essentially disgusting.
It's not the taste. It's not the taste why I don't drink.
Absolutely class, man.
But obviously we've had Christmas and stuff. Did you have a nice Christmas?
I tell you what, for me it was a bit surreal. For me, Christmas is a little bit like sex. It's all about the foreplay. It's about the build-up. And without that, it was a bit weird, to be fair, because don't get me wrong with this whole situation. It's been nice to be...
Christmas or the four...
everything, bit of everything, really. But with Christmas... It's nice to go see your family, spend time with the people that you don't see all the time. But since this, you spend a lot more time with family, which is always a good thing. But for me, our little family tradition at the Herbertsons is we, in Hexham, we all meet up at home and we go down to the local cinema. And then after that, we go to the local Wetherspoons because we're cheap. Get a meal, get a couple of drinks and meet up with friends and bump into people. Hello, yeah, I haven't seen you in a few years and everything. It was like, woke up. I went over to Mum and Dad's. Oh, Merry Christmas, blah, blah. We had one meal together because my grandparents weren't there and stuff, and it was like it's been just a bit odd. But I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one feeling like that. The whole world's been flipped upside down.
I think everyone's the same, and it's been a much more, just much quieter Christmas for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a nice time.
No Black-Eyed Friday, nothing. No drinking.
Nice time to catch up with friends and family in it. But it was exactly the same for us. So usually we have all of the elderly relatives around our house, and it's a nice time to catch up with everyone. And it was just a very intimate thing this year, and in terms of friends and family. But hopefully, I really do hope we'll be back to some sort of normality next year, 2021.
Definitely, 100% agree. But I tell you what, I've got to get a couple of cheap shots in before I go. I had a couple of young, thirsty, fast riders on my bike from the Northeast. They're really, quite frankly, what the Northeast can deliver is top quality stock when it comes to racing motorcycles. The Blue Chicken team, without a doubt. So we got the chicken legend, Chicken Charlton, who smuggles chickens from the Isle of Man, and then you've got the Blue Steel Barsby, a couple of 30 plus the VAT riders, 30-year-old riders, and they essentially wrote off my Cymoto little 140. At first, I was at the side of the track like a proud father, watching my bike go around, and I saw, honestly, it was just flipped upside down more times, and I can't even give you an analogy of it. It was just... it was absolutely raw off. It was absolutely class. It shows credit how well them things crash mined. I think they spent more time on their arse than they did on the wheels.
I've seen a few of them.
Oh yeah, but that's it. They came in with such a smile on your face, their faces. They ripped the throttle cable out, they knocked the carb, they knocked this, they knocked that, and what a laugh, man! Everyone just 4 hours, and it got, like you say, reduced to 3.5, and we just got them through it. And that's the first time they've actually finished the Moped Mayhem, and for me, that's what it's all about. But mind you, for me, I've just been cleaning the bike all day. And the salt on the track, I could see you. We actually caught up in the middle of the race. Your eyes were bloodshot, mate.
Yeah. Well, I tried to keep my visor down, but before long you have no visibility. So I did
salt literally clags to
a 50-minute stint, and opened my visor up for it, and it's much better visibility. But after 50 minutes of having crap in your eyes, and I tell you what, I was so tired as well last night. When I got in last night, I think I fell asleep on the sofa at about 7. You were there.
Something like
7, 8 o'clock.
We were supposed to do this intro.
Yeah, and then I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning, still on the settee, went to bed, and I still struggled to get up in the morning. Like I properly whacked after that. But no, I mean, I did enjoy it. Like, it was good.
At least you're not cleaning your bike, because honestly, it looked like Scarface sneezed on it. I mean, it was just white. No, my bike. Oh. I mean, honestly, it was just white all over it from the salt. But it's there. But there we go, man. But no, absolutely cracking.
I presume most people will be watching this right in like early sort of New Year. So I hope
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I hope you've all had good. Well, I'm not sure what you'll be able to do New Year's Eve, but wherever you are in the world, hope you've enjoyed New Year's Eve.
Tier 4, make some noise.
A much better 2021. One thing that I quickly want to just say, I seen on Twitter today, and it was so funny. There's a Twitter thread between. Do you know who Simon Patterson is?
Who's Simon Patterson?
He was an MCN. I think he worked for MCN as a bike reporter, but then he's worked for Petronas and a few others. He's a reporter anyway.
That's high end then.
That's
all right, yeah.
And he basically had to go people on Twitter for not following the rules properly or whatever.
Oh, hold on. So, like individuals on Twitter, he's been having pops at?
No, he just put a tweet out there and
rounded everyone off.
Yeah, basically saying anyone that wasn't following the rules type of thing. And there was a bit of a Twitter thread, and Christian Idden had posted a picture of him, basically saying, you shouldn't really be lecturing others how to live or whatever.
Don't be throwing stones in greenhouses.
And he posted a picture of him at I think it was Dovy's leaving thing, and there's like loads of them in this picture, and Simon's the only one without a mask. And he's preaching everybody else about following the rules, and he's been traveling. I know it's his job, but he's been traveling around the world as to all the MotoGPs and trying to tell other people like how they should and shouldn't live. And he's just such a woke individual that I thought it was just so funny that Christian. So many bike racers were then commenting, like high end bike racers saying mic drop and things like that. And it was such a great tweet.
That's the thing though. If you're kicking off,
that's the thing. I think you've got to be like. You've got to be so careful trying to tell others how they should and shouldn't live. If you're, because nobody's perfect, and unless you're 100% squeaky clean, which I'm pretty sure nobody is, you've got to be very, very careful about judging other people. And I just thought it was he's the same person. Not the Black Lives Matter movement, the George Floyd thing.
Oh yes,
he basically said the racing paddocks are the most racist places he's ever worked and things like that. And it's just not true, is it? We know from experience of being in them.
For God's sake. Well, they know what they say about opinions, don't they?
And it's tar.
They're like arseholes. Everyone's got
You've got to
one.
be careful of the tar and the whole like our sort of community like that.
Hats off Christian Idden. Yeah. May I just say that a fair play that man. There's another MBA getting chucked around. Christian Idden. Imagine Queen Elizabeth knighting him.
I know.
It was Sir Christian. Well done for dishing out the portions.
But brilliant. Now, just before we go, I just wanted to quickly say I've got a few NGK. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. But NGK have given us some lovely champion posters from this year. Do you know the corner, Dom?
Who's that on the photo?
Myself.
But,
is it?
Yeah. All right.
Can you?
You don't look that fast normally.
Do you know? Could you name the track or name the corner?
I have.
You've raced here. You've raced the BSB meeting here. Open Park.
No, mate. How many? Okay, right. For people, this is literally a zoomed-in shot, right? And you've got
to be an easy one. You can see the slip road. You can see the.
There's no way on God's green. I'm feeling sorry for our podcast listeners right now because I'm trying to describe this. It's literally a motorcycle on tarmac. There's no
Cascades. It is. So turn 3.
There is no way. Like how many people? Oh, we should have left that blank and see if you can actually. Can you edit it? Can you edit this little? No.
We can do another competition.
No.
We'll do another
Leave
competition.
it for the pod, but there's no way on God's green earth. That's a million guesses. That's a million corners. Nice photo.
NGK have done
Thank
them.
You, NGK.
So I'm gonna for people commenting on the YouTube video. So anyone that comments on the YouTube videos and with a chance of winning, and I'll sign 5 of them and post them out. So if you head over to YouTube, comment anything about the podcast, and it's
only positive.
Yeah, it's literally, and also the thing I use for picking winners from comments, it edits out if you do more than one comment, it only picks one of them type of thing. So if you think you're being clever by leaving loads of comments, it doesn't work. It's individual accounts.
Damn it.
So head over to that if you want one, that is, and we'll pick 5 out and I'll post them out. Have we got anything else to tie today up with, Dom?
Tie it up? No, I just even going briefly, I don't think I mentioned it that I was faster than you the other day. I don't think I brought that up, but nearly a whole second, nearly
on a worse bike as
well. No, I say. Yeah, funny you should say that worse bike. No, it was a pit bike, but it belonged to a man called Neil Martin. And I tell you what, I was dead nervous. I was really, really nervous. And as you all know by now, I was racing for Counton Racing, and James Counton was one of my friends who sadly lost his life at the Summit 100, and what they used to do every year is go to Moped Mayhem with Neil and his bunch of mates, and they always used to have a laugh. But like every race at that track, it all starts off as a laugh, but everyone wants to go as fast as they can all the time, and James was not an exception to that, and he always wanted to do the best, and every time he swung his leg over a motorcycle. And him and Neil and his mates won that award so many times, and for me it was quite a pressurizing situation. I'm like, oh God, I want to win this, but not for me at all. My only game was to beat my aim was to beat you, and I smoked that. But like, to win that particular class, we were third overall, but to win the pit bike class was a special moment for me. Yeah, yes, Moped Mayhem is a laugh. It really is, and I can't recommend it enough to anyone. But that simple little token, it meant a lot to me, to be fair. So I'd say, Neil sold that bike now to Shane, so that little trophy sitting at Shane's garage now, and I can't thank them lads enough for the Counton team and everyone who, bloody hell, I'm going to tear up here. But I can't thank everyone enough for this year. Like, let's sum it up now. I think we're in the new year now when this comes out, but I can't thank everyone enough who supported me, sponsored me. Not just this year, the year's building up to here to get to sitting on a driveway with Chrissy Rouse in a podcast freezing my balls off. So.
I've just thought of a great, if you're not sure what to comment to win this competition, I've just thought of the giveaway. A great thing you can comment. Obviously, we've done shitloads of podcasts this year. I don't know what number we were on last year, but we've been banging at least 4 out a month all year, so there'll be a fair few to choose from. And
thanks to Colchester Kawasaki, we can continue.
But if you want to comment on this thing on YouTube, comment your favourite podcast from this year, and it'll just be interesting also to see who's
the winner is going to be the one who writes none. So,
if you're stuck for something to comment, just comment what you think's been the best podcast that we've done this year, and we'll obviously get some good guests lined up for the new year. I'm really excited for everything that's in store.
Get some prizes, get this, get some of that, a bit of this, bit of that. But before I go, it's mad, speaking in the future kind of thing, but I'm thinking about selling the Ovali. So I think we were talking about this beforehand, weren't we? So you came up with a cracking idea of raffling it off to all our listeners and everything like that. So those details will come on, or if someone wants to just drop us an invoice, and I'll drop us a message, and we can just either ping it off straight away to you and come deliver it. Or I think the raffle idea, let's get your views on it. Let's get some comments on the old social media and see if everyone's up for it. Really,
my idea is to do. I think it's worth about $5,000, isn't it? So
it's worth $5,000 to do. I've literally done like 2 hours on it.
I would say 100 entries, 50 quid each, and for 50 quid you can pick a number between your 1 and 100, and you've got like a 1% chance of winning it, and then someone could essentially win a $5,000 bike for 50 quid. So that would be my idea, but we'll see.
Let's have a look, see what interest and feedback we get from there. So,
and to round this year off, a massive thank you to everyone that supports us, whether it's on our patrons, obviously our sponsor Colchester Kawasaki, but to all those people that have Wolf TT Cases as well for looking after all of our merchandise, for all of the people that have been buying the merchandise, supporting us that way.
Thank you to all our guests taking the time to come on the show.
Guests, all of our people who follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever social media platform you follow us on, or email us or whatever. And if everyone's spreading the word, we've had literally hundreds of thousands of views and downloads this year, and it's gone in a real sort of positive trajectory. So massive thank you everyone spreading the word. Thoroughly enjoyed another year doing the podcast. It's mad. I think it's nearly we started 2 years ago. 2 years in January, I think. So it's almost the beginning of January is our second birthday for doing the podcast. So
oh my God.
But massive thank you to everyone who tunes in and listens. And I do really hope that we've brightened a few sort of crappy mornings or evenings up this year. yeah, well, Happy New Year anyway. Happy New
Yes,
Year.
likewise, son.
And take care, everyone, and we'll catch up next year.
Catch us later. See you in a bit.
Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester, Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.